Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday to you. Happy kicking off St. Patrick's Day week. I hope whatever you're doing today on this very cold morning here in Chicago is going to be fun for you, relaxing for you, nice for you. I wanted to just talk to you for a minute today to tell you about this incredible book. I talk sometimes about ghost lore and the idea of ghost lore. And ghost lore, a term that we actually coined back in the early days of Chicago haunts, is, it's kind of looking at history through the ghost stories. And it's very difficult to do ghost lore because a lot of times people that do ghost lore are historians. And historians, of course, love to get to the bottom of things. They like to get all the facts and find out what really happened. And oftentimes that leads to overzealous historians sort of, researching all the magic out of the ghost stories, right? So oftentimes they end up disproving the story, exposing it as a hoax or a fraud. And that's not what we want, is it? We want to keep that magic and that mystery about these stories. And so it's very rare that you come across somebody that can do ghost lore and do it really well. I always talk about my good friend Scott Marcus, who a lot of you I know are familiar with. He wrote a great book about Chicago ghosts called Voices from the Chicago Grave. And he has a lot of stuff out there on YouTube and everything. And he is just wonderful at ghost lore. There are, oh my gosh, Allison Jordan up in Wisconsin is so great at ghost lore, so good at it. So, there are people out there that do it well and people all over the world who do it well, but it is difficult. So it's hard to find someone who does it really well. I found this amazing book that is one of the best examples of ghost lore I have ever found. And it happens to be by an author named Dylan Clearfield. And if you're from the Chicago area and you like ghost stories, you may have seen that name before, because Dylan Clearfield and I released our books on Chicago ghosts in the same year, in 1997. Dylan's book is called, oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of it now. It'll come to me. But I think it's called Chicagoland Ghosts, actually. It's not on my bookshelf somewhere. So Chicagoland Ghosts. Yes, that's what it is. Chicagoland Ghosts. So he and I released our books, and I released my, Chicago Haunts same year. And, I've never met Dylan, and I've tried to get in touch with him. I've never been able to find him. And when I was researching my last book, The Haunting of Joliet Prison, which I did a reading from earlier this week, I came across, was looking for any more material on one of the most famous, or probably the most famous ghost story at Joliet Prison. And that is the singing ghost that came to Joliet Prison in 1932 and caused this huge sensation, not only in Joliet in Illinois, but around the country. And there were thousands of people who came every night to Joliet and gathered to hear this singing ghost. The singing was coming from the old prison quarry. And if you've been down to Joliet Prison, across the street from the prison, so across Collins Avenue, which is also, as you might know, Archer Avenue, haunted Archer Avenue, there was this quarry area where there were two quarries, and a lot of the prisoners quarried limestone from these quarries. In fact, prisoners built the prison. They came up from Alton, Illinois, where the original state penitentiary was in the 1850s. And they quarried limestone from these quarries across from next to the prison and built the prison. Today, those quarries are still there, but they're filled with water, and it's state property, so you can't access them. But you can see them when you drive the winding road that goes behind them. And if you drive that way, to one side, you'll see the water-filled quarries and the prison over the wall there. And on the other side, you'll see this big field, and it goes up to the bluff and the area that's called the Hill. And there's a neighborhood up there. And it was in this neighborhood where people started to hear the singing ghost, the voice coming, the singing. And it was usually church hymns in Latin wafting up to the hill from the quarry. And it became known as the singing ghost because in between the quarries and that neighborhood up on the hill was the prison field, which also contained the old convict cemetery. Now, I've done so much research on the old convict cemetery, and you can actually find up online on the old ChicagoHauntings.com blog that's still up there. And you can read a very long article that I wrote about the prison cemetery, which also includes all of the burials that I have been able to find pertaining to the cemetery. And that's that is excerpted from this book, that blog. So if you have this book, you have that information already. If you don't have the book, you can read about that for free on the blog at ChicagoHauntings.com. But it's very interesting because the cemetery has disappeared, even though there may be over 1,000 burials still there. I mean, it's gone. There's no evidence that it was there. Any markers that were there were wooden markers that are long gone. And you know what? It just seems to me like the powers that be are trying to make people forget that it's there. There are plans to redevelop this area, make it into like a public access area that has a nature preserve and stuff like that. And I've looked at the plans, I've looked at the proposals, and the cemetery is not even on the maps. It's not mentioned in the proposals. So I dread that they're trying to just make people forget it's there and just use it as part of this project without doing anything about trying to market, conserve it, etc. At any rate, the story is so interesting because, like I said, the singing ghost of Joliet prison became this national sensation. And again, thousands of people came each night from all over the country to try and hear the singing ghost. And it led to a lot of issues in the area with, you know, people tramping through people's backyards, ruining their gardens, all sorts of riffraff showing up. And eventually there was a convict that confessed to being the singing ghost. He said that he was a prison trustee who was basically trusted to do work outside of the prison. And he was in charge of working the pumps at the quarries. And he would have to go there at night and, check on the pumps. And he told the press that he would be scared walking over by the cemetery at night, so he would sing to himself. And so that was the explanation. It was dismissed as a hoax, and there's no ghost, and people stopped coming. Well, it came to light later that so-called confession was the real hoax. And that story all comes to light in this incredible little book. It's a little book. It's called A Ghost Thrills America, and it's by Dylan Clearfield, the author of Chicagoland Ghosts. It's such a great book. Dylan talks in the book all about, growing on. He grew up in Joliet, in that neighborhood, in the Hill. So the story of the singing ghost was passed down through his family, and family members of his, grandparents, aunts and uncles witnessed it. They lived through it. And so he had firsthand knowledge that a lot of people haven't had about the singing ghost. And in the book, he goes through, there's photographs of the area. It was only with the help of this book, I was able to find out where the cemetery actually is. Because like I said, it's not on any map. I think people have gone through a lot of trouble in Joliet, especially at the Historical Society, to not let people know where it is. It was only through this book I was able to find out where it was and to find it for myself. So it's great in that way. Dylan talks all about, what the area was like at that time, the relationship that the neighbors had with the prisoners at the cemetery, and, kind of all of the theories about what actually happened. He goes through all of those theories, and there's a lot of history about Joliet and about the area. And some, like I said, very new information that we haven't known before behind the story of the singing ghost of Joliet prison. So you can get this book on Amazon. I think it's self-published. I haven't found it anywhere else. So get this book on Amazon, A Ghost Thrills America by Dylan Clearfield, our old friend from Chicagoland Ghosts. And let me know what you think about it in the comments if you do read it. I think it might also be an ebook, but I'm not sure. But you can check that out on Amazon too. So I wanted to share this with you today. I will be sharing periodically with you other books that I think are really special and really well done about the paranormal. So I hope to see you soon. I'll definitely see you next Thursday for our third episode of This Present Darkness. So we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about spirit possession, spirit attachment, and something that I underwent called remote spirit attachment therapy or removal therapy, which I think you'll find very interesting. So I'll see you next Thursday, if not before, and you guys have a great Saturday and enjoy your St. Patrick's Day as well. Actually, I'll see you next Thursday for St. Patrick's Day for our next installment. All right, take good care. I'll talk to you guys later.